This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. If you don't already subscribe to Paramount Plus, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/Paramount Plus. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only.
Hello and welcome to episode 65 of the Star Trek Discovery podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And tonight we will be covering season 4, episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery, titled All is Possible. But before we get started, this is a reminder, of course, that if you've been listening to us, you know that we started on our Patreon a new benefit. So you can get early access of the episodes, and you can get that for as low as $1 a month. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie to sign up. And you get the episodes usually a few days ahead of everybody else. So, and plus you get to hear all the sausage being made. So before we get started with the main podcast, we have some feedback on season 4, episode 3, titled Choose to Live, and some stuff about the podcast episode. So let's open hailing frequencies. First, we have some errata.
Incorrect.
All right, so last episode, I neglected to mention, this isn't really an error, but to me, this is an error in omission, because I wish I would have said this. The writer, Terry Hughes Burton, was appropriate to write a Quat Malat episode because she was a writer and producer on the Netflix series Warrior Nun. So, coincidence? I think not. And I remember saying something about the USS Stargazer and how it had a very similar ship number compared to the USS Credence. It's not quite as close as I thought. In looking at it, the Stargazer was the NCC 2893 and the Credence was NCC 2804. Now, again, makes you wonder why such a low registry. Did they start over, or did they has that ship just been retrofitted like for the last 900 years? I don't know. But in any case, it's got an old registry. Even older than the Stargazer. So you have some errata.
I do. Apparently. I said Janet Reno more than once in our recording for episode 2 instead of Jet Reno. And on top of that, I also forgot to mention it in the errata section when we recorded episode 64 last week. So, yes, I know who they are and that they're different people. I have a vague memory of saying Janet instead of Jet, and I have nothing to say for myself.
You are not alone in making that mistake.
Oops, my bad.
Yeah. You're definitely not alone in making that mistake. I've seen many people make that same mistake.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I mean, I know it's Jet. I know her name is Jet Reno. I just was probably in a hurry in my head and I said Janet. So anyway, furthermore, in episode 64, I also announced that feedback would be due Friday, December 11th, but the 11th of December is a Saturday, not a Friday. So I hope that didn't mess you guys up too much. And I have to say, I was set up for failure on that one. Brian.
Yes, well, I've been...
I just read what I'm told.
Yeah. All right. We have some feedback that came in. Well, yeah, actually both of them came in late, but there's a special story on the second one. Jim from Orange, he gave us some feedback. He says, I rank it a 7 out of 10. The only good thing was about the quat with Burnham and Tilly. The other storylines don't interest me at all due to the other actors overacting and whining way too much. This season has been a disappointment so far. It breaks my heart to say so because I'm pretty positive about my love with Star Trek. All right.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's had its moments, but, and certainly the first season had its issues. But if I had to look at, if you discount, say, the first couple of episodes from season 1 and you judge it, say, from, 3 to 13, it was pretty good. I thought 14 and 15 weren't quite as good, but they were, I don't know. But this, so far, it's not wowing me as much as it has in the past. Still my favorite show, but, it's not as high on a pedestal this season so far. And I think the same could be said about you.
Yeah. I am not impressed.
Yeah. So this next feedback, we said we didn't get any feedback from LT. Well, we did. It was in our doc, but he put it in our doc because he has access to our docs. He put it in our doc after we recorded. So
Whoopsie.
That's why he was surprised when the feedback wasn't in there. It's like, because he's like, I think that's the most feedback I've ever left. I'm like, are you kidding? And then when I found out when he left it on Saturday, and it's like, well, he didn't. And I don't think he did he leave us any feedback this week? No.
I don't think so. And we are actually recording on Saturday today, so no excuses, LT. All right. LT says his rating 9.5 out of 10 Romulan ninja nuns in the 32nd century, like Duck Dodgers. Duck Dodgers. Which is like Buck Rogers. Anyway, going on, LT's yeses. For yeses, they finally said what we had been thinking about Doc Culber acting as ship's counselor, as well as a conventional medical doctor. We got some substantial growth with Tilly, and while she is still the same excitable hyper character we have grown to love previously, she is showing growth and maturation, and if she continues on this track, I can be much more on board with her moving into a command position on the ship. I enjoyed seeing Stamets on Navarre at the science seminar and seeing him discussing his points with the assembled scientists, because you can see some of his growth as a character, and especially how he and Booker are working better together. I am very happy that Burnham is showing more logic and a seasoned outlook during the mission, more so than how we have seen in the past. She may still have those impetuous bursts in the future, but her interactions on the mission and her conversations with the President and the Admiral are showing me that she has matured and seasoned as a senior officer. Maybe she will still do her going off on an emotional tangent, but I am seeing her become a captain that is much more comfortable in her role. I did like the Gray Adira Gollum scene, and I really hope that Gray's character can start doing more episode-wise than being Adira's invisible friend. The mind meld with Booker was a good dive in the feels for me. mainly because it seemed that his primary struggle was not with the loss of his home planet, but his emotional questions and guilt over his nephew. It was a nice dichotomy for him to get an emotional response from our otherwise stoic and logical Vulcan interaction, and it was a good counterpoint scene for me. Hold your horses. So, when I saw the cold open, I was very concerned because I was afraid this was going to be another episode where the writers went back to the well of using the Coat Millat as a plot nugget. We saw this from Picard and the reuse of it in last season of Discovery with the introduction of Mother Burnham as a sister. And my issue from the outset was this was going to be another case of this is neat and we like this as a plot device. Even this complaint of mine for the writers going back to the well one too many times did not take away from this being not only one of the best episodes of Discovery to date, but I'll go out on a limb and say that this was as good an episode of Star Trek as any we have gotten so far across any of the franchises. Just for clarity, my only objection was going back to the Coat Millat as a plot device. Even with that objection, I loved this episode. I am hoping that the arrest of the Coat Millat sister and the president's interaction with Navarre doesn't end up being made into something far bigger as a plot complication. They did manage to use our favorite ninja nuns better than I anticipated, and I hope they continue using some of our previously used but newly introduced plot nuggets, like Picard stuff or previous disco things, judiciously, more like a garnish and not as an entree.
Plot complication. Question I would have is, does this episode qualify as a plot complication or not? Because it certainly does come up. All right. So that's it for feedback from last week. We didn't get any feedback on the podcast because it was so damn late in getting out there. So, all right. Getting into this week's episode, Season 4, Episode 4, titled All Is Possible, written by Alan McElroy and Eric J. Robbins, and directed by John Ottman. The description?
Probably McElroy. Or is it McElroy? Do you know?
I don't know. This has come up last season as well. Whether it was McElroy or McElroy. Yes, we have. The very same. The very same. I think it is one of those, regional dialect things, but,
Sorry, carry on.
The description from ParamountPlus.com is as follows. Tilly and Adira lead a team of Starfleet Academy cadets on a training mission that takes a dangerous turn. Burnham is pulled into tense negotiations on Navarre. I won't play it this time. The air date is December 8th, 2021 at 11:06 Pacific time. And I know exactly it was 11:06 because I caught it the second it showed up because I refreshed my page. It wasn't there. And then 2 seconds later, I refreshed my page again and it was there. So
there you go.
Yeah. It had a star date, the first star date of the season. 865661.2. And I'd almost give that a yes. So it had a runtime of 54 minutes and 32 seconds. So, Ruthie, what would you give All Is Possible?
I have to agree with Jim from Orange, who studied at Disney. I am not loving this season, really. It's kind of... So I am going to give it I'm just going to give it an 8.
An 8.
An 8. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe an 8.2, but again, all my ratings are arbitrary anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I just... yeah, that's it. Okay. That's all I got. I got nothing else. I'm just not really... Just kind of blah.
I like this episode quite a bit, but it wasn't my favorite episode. I was trying to decide between like somewhere between 8 and 9. I guess I will give it an 8.5. I'll just go right down the middle of that. And it is a Star Trek trope of where a character that we've never seen before dies. And of course, it's in the past called Red Shirt. Of course, in Next Generation, the colors changed, so red was gold and gold was red. So he was a former Red Shirt, but I've always called those people ensign expendable. So it was I'm here on the planet with ensign expendable and lieutenant life loss. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So this guy was a lieutenant. So I say 8.5. Who mourns for lieutenant life loss?
I still consider them red shirts, to be quite honest.
Well, they are, yes. But anyway, I've always just called them, given them character names because they often don't even have character names. So anyway, so we have some listener ratings. Actually, we got a lot of feedback on this episode this week. So why don't you start it off?
All right. Will from SoCal says, Discovery Season 4, Episode 4. I rank this episode a 9.5, upbeat and bubbly.
We have in there James, the Augmented Sailor, because he did talk about the episode, but he did not give it a specific rating. But we're acknowledging the fact that you acknowledged the... I don't know. I didn't put this in. This was Ruthie. So why did you put this in?
Just because I don't know.
Okay.
I think he says later he talks about it.
Okay. Well, I know he had some.
I made it confusing.
Yeah, I know he had some things to say about this episode for sure. All right, next.
Wes from Minnesota says, this episode actually felt like a step up from last week's episode by far. I give it 9.5 best of Star Trek moments out of 10.
Clint from Indianapolis says, this could be the best episode of the season. 9.0 bubbles out of 10. Not saying much as this has been the weakest start to a season for Discovery.
Brian from Colorado says, I rate All Is Possible 9 out of 10 Tilly teachers.
Mike from Cleveland says, I give this episode 9 out of 10. About darn time we do some Star Trek on Star Trek.
Jim from Orange didn't give it a specific number rating, but he said, really good episode, best of the season.
Kim from San Diego and the Star Trek Prodigy podcast from Rebinge It on Talk Through Media says, I give this episode 6 out of 10.
I am right there with you, Kim. Mike from AZ says a few things. It's kind of funny. My rating for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible, is a 9.7. Is that a new life form? What? Out of 10. And he titled his feedback Professor Killy, I presume. And he just said, hello, Brian and Ruthie. Sorry I missed last week's feedback. I didn't see the change in the deadline until it had passed. That's all for this week. Just so everybody knows, our deadline is normally Friday, except for it's going to be a bit wonky this time around because we've had some things happening, but also the holidays are coming up. So that is going to throw a giant kink in that recording plan. But that is closer to the end of December. So
Yes, just remember the episode that's around Christmas. You're going to have to get your feedback in same day. So
yeah,
same day.
But again, if you don't, give it to us late. We'll read it next time.
We'll just have a 4-hour episode for New Year's.
Yeah, for New Year's, it's going to be late rather than early.
Yeah.
Because Unfortunately, Friday is Christmas Eve and Saturday is Christmas, and we're not going to record on either of those days. So sorry, guys, but we like to enjoy holidays too.
But we will record on New Year's Day. So anyway, we got something that came in. We're not sure if it was an actual attempt to send in feedback, but the form was empty and it came from Clifford. Clifford, if you're out there, just letting you know that
we got something.
Yeah, we got something, but it was empty. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, LT from NC and Lower Decks gives this episode an 8 out of 10. Somehow I saw this coming.
All right. Let's move on to yeses.
Yes!
Will from SoCal says, to Tilly finding her true purpose teaching at Starfleet Academy. Happy for Navarre rejoining the Federation.
James, the Augmented Sailor, says, yes, okay. So at first, when Culber and Book were meeting, Culber tried to empathize with talking about his uncle and the finger breaking. It really seemed to fall flat. And then those mother effers.
Thank you.
James has a bad mouth. Went and made me cry. Something about the way Culber listens here and just acknowledges the weight that Book is carrying here is incredible. The way he verbalizes it back to Book is a no-nonsense. There's no space for this kind of thing. It's a long-ass time. He's coming to grips with losing his entire world. This is something I thought about fathoming last week, but then I realized I can barely deal with my own goings-on, let alone my entire people. Tilly knows what she needs to do. Her character is floundering due to writer negligence and not Wiseman's portrayal. Agreed. This season, thus far. I think they needed to give her a break for a few episodes to return her strong. And I feel that's what we're going to get. If not, then they'll really fail Tilly, Wiseman, and her fans.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory on this. Other than the obvious theory that Mary Wiseman was going to work on a play, and I'm not really sure how long someone has to go and prepare for a play before they actually do the play, because I've never done a play. But I know that,
It's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot of rehearsal.
Yeah. So anyway, she's got a play that's going to be, I think, on Broadway, and it's coming, I think, in February. So it all depends on how long she had to be gone for that. So if she had to be gone for months and months and months, writing her character out, at least temporarily, it makes sense. I mean, I was, what's the word? I was happy when I saw her being interviewed on the Ready Room this week, and finally Will Wheaton asked the question that all of us wanted answered: is this it for Tilly? And she's like, no. So we are going to see Tilly again, whether or not, I think it's going to be, if we see Tilly in the credits next week, then we can go, oh, this is just, a couple of episodes thing, and, she'll be back. If she's off the credits, then it's going to be, well, either she's off the credits permanently or she's off the credits for a little bit, but I still have a theory, so I'll give it later. Not appropriate to give it right now. It'll be in the Hold Your Horses, because that's Tilly's category.
Alrighty then.
Wes from Minnesota is next. He says, this was a great blend of what made Star Trek great, such as a creature chasing an away team, like in Star Trek 2009, political intrigue that reminds the viewer of Deep Space Nine, character development, and team building too. This was very well done from all aspects. Culber trying to help Book was really well done. You make good points there, Wes. I would agree in all of those. They were, they were well done, and I did think of Deep Space Nine with the whole political stuff with Navarre. So, especially with the president of the Federation being, part Cardassian, I can't help but, take that into consideration, and part Bajoran,
Yeah. Is it? This is something I wondered when I was watching this episode. Is it Bajor or Bajor?
Yeah. Well,
I have always thought it was Bajor.
Yeah. Well, it's in Deep Space Nine, they called it Bajor, and in Next Gen, they called it Bajor. So that's.
I would think they would know what they're talking about in Deep Space Nine because they're orbiting the planet Bajor.
Well, like if you remember the first time that they, the first time that they refer to, Bajorans, they call them the Bajora, and that was in Ensign Row. They called them the Bajora. This was not the the work of the Bajora, and that was from a Bajoran that said that. So,
I don't know. I don't have time for this foolishness.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
It reminds me of the Mugato. However, the Mugato that was mentioned in season 2 of Lower Decks. It's like every time the Mugato was brought up on screen in the original series, it was pronounced a different way. So there's like Mugatu, Mugato, Mogato, Mugatu.
Arigato, Mr. Mugato.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Next we have Clint from Indianapolis who says, is that right? I'm right. Yes to action, excitement, and most characters actually doing something. Yes to wrong character to shed, Tilly, but good that they may be making the cast a little smaller.
Brian from Colorado is next. He says, yes, Tilly showed great leadership skills with the cadets, and I really enjoyed the quality of the Navarre's presidents acting throughout the episode. Yeah, I agree about Tilly's leadership skills, and I had something I said about it. I said that I still think that Tilly will be a great captain someday, but I think her becoming a teacher will help her get there. So I think that this will only help, build her confidence up. And I think that, she'll feel more in her zone that she's, doing it for herself, so anyway.
All right. Next, we have Mike from Cleveland who says, yes, thank you finally for an episode voided of Michael doubting her commitment to Starfleet or right to sit in the chair. I truly dislike my mama raised me better than to use a word like hated. The iffy willy will she stay, will she go storyline of season 3 and also in the Star Trek Discovery novel Wonderlands. Yeah, I do the novels also. Don't judge me, bro. Hey, no one's judging.
No one's judging. I've read one of the Discovery novels, the Tilly novel, actually, but I haven't read the rest of them. So
the only Star Trek novel I've read so far is the Picard novel.
And a great one.
Yeah, it was really good.
Kim from San Diego and Prodigy is next, and she says, beaming Tilly and the cadets to safety at the last second. That's Trek. Saru and Tarina are cute. Yes, I agree with that. Saru and Michael in those dress unis are a good look. Yes, they are. I like them too.
Agreed. All right, next we have Mike from Arizona who says, yes, this was a cute episode. I really like how they're developing Tilly's character and having her resolve her attachment issues with her mother, including her need for her mother's approval. She is starting to come into her own, and I think serving as an instructor can be a great way for her to teach and inspire cadets while becoming more of the person she wants to be. Tilly did a great job of managing the conflicts among the cadets, getting them to open up with each other, diffuse the tension, and get them to work together to get off the moon. Her decision to be the diversion at the end was a mini Burnham moment of doing what needs to be done for the crew.
Yep. And that was better said than what I just said.
It was good to see Saru and the president of Vulcan deepen their friendship. President Trina. Go, Dr. Culber! Nice to see Tilly and Michael connect. The scenery of the moon was cool, but it was similar to the first Kelvin timeline movie. I'm kind of done with ice planets. Where are the hot spring planets?
I'll tell you where they are. They are for Picard, probably, because shot in Toronto. Where is desert? Not in Toronto.
Yeah, where's the hot springs? Not Toronto.
Yeah.
The
so
ice
Toronto
planet
does
is in Toronto.
Toronto does cold really well, but heat and arid stuff not so well. So they'd have to.
They've got what did
Vasquez Rocks is where they always And in fact, in season 1 of Picard, Rafi's trailer is at Vasquez Rocks. So
there's your hot springs. Okay, so not really hot springs, but just desert.
Well, I don't know. They used it all the time at in Star Trek.
If you're looking for a paradisiacal planet, you'll have to go to Risa.
Yeah. Okay. All right. LT from NC is last on our listeners, and of course does the Star Trek Lower Decks podcast with me and Kyle. He says, good to see the maturing Tilly, and hopefully this will give her a chance to grow more as an officer training at the academy. Good to see Adira getting a little more together as an officer. Good. All right, Ruthie, what do you have for yeses this week?
Kovich. I don't know why, but I like that guy. Maybe it's the glasses. Or maybe it's the way he speaks or something. I don't know. I like him. I enjoy watching him on screen. So
yeah,
unfortunately, that's all I got. I wasn't really that thrilled with this episode. So,
well, I have a bunch of little things. Finally, and this is again not I do this all the time. I come up with these things that are not directly the episode, but they're about watching the episode, so I put them in. Finally, on the web anyway, Paramount Plus has a skip button. So in other words, you can skip the previously on, and you can skip the intro, which you couldn't do in computer browser, and I could only do it in certain like apps or certain things. And I know I have to check to see if it's working on my iPad and iPhone. I haven't checked there, but it wasn't working there. But at one place it is working now is in the browser. So I was happy to see that.
Yay.
Stealing from my spot the references, Tilly has an NX-01 snow globe. That snow globe that she passes over to Adira, that has the NX-01 in it. So we see, although we didn't get to see most of the bridge crew this week, we see some also rans from the bridge crew, like Lieutenant Ina, Linus, and Lieutenant Christopher. So I'll just give them a shout out because we don't see them very often. I'm gave a big no last week to the Ready Room and Will Wheaton, and I was wondering if it was going to be it was starting to lose some of its truth or whatever because it just felt too slick. Well, I'm going to give an apology to Will Wheaton this week because if you watched this week, Will Wheaton cried on this episode, and he was very, very touched when Tilly started talking about like how she was, doing trying to go for the captains to trying to become captain, I guess to impress her mother. And she said she was trying to do it to be seen. And this kind of touched a nerve in Will Wheaton because he had some parents that really pushed him hard into acting. And one of the reasons why he kind of, stepped away from Next Gen is because he just didn't want to do it anymore. Now, I think he's kind of realized, what he has, and but he's doing it on his own terms, I think now. But anyway, I was touched to see how much he was touched because it was clear that it hit an emotional nerve for him. So anyway, kudos to you, and sorry for doubting you last week. USS Armstrong, I just like that because it was the USS Armstrong. So good naming. And I too am liking the romance between Tarina and Saru. Specifically, I like the pickup line. I would like to know more about your meditative technique. Yep. I thought that was good. So, and
oh my God,
there was another line that I wrote down that I thought was really funny. It was something Book said to Culber, when they talked about like what's bothering him, and he basically says it's grudge. Yeah, she's been especially needy lately. Oh, it's a rough life. I went back and watched that a few times. That one line, just to get it down exactly what it was. It made me laugh every time.
Yeah, anybody who's ever been owned by a cat understands.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I have a cat that is somewhat similar to Grudge, whose name is Taz, and he's a big fluffy cat. Probably has some Maine Coon in him, which I know Grudge has. But he's not quite that size, but he's similar, and he's big fluffy cat. And he's now taken, every time we go into the kitchen, he has to do the tappy tap on the shoulder, wanting treats. He does it every time. We don't give him treats every time, but it's really funny. And he will get in my arms sometimes when I'm trying to edit or when I'm trying to work, and he'll just lay there like a little baby. Anyway, so he's been kind of needy lately too.
Yeah. I think my cat is finally adjusting to me actually going back to work rather than working from home. Because for the majority of 2020 and a goodly portion of 2021, I was working from home. And I know he didn't like it because he still mostly wants to just be on my lap wherever I am. He's sitting on my lap right now, just sleeping. Yeah, it's a rough life, all right. Anyway, he is also a little stinker, shall we say, because he gets on my counters and he knows I don't want him to be on my counters.
Yeah.
He gets on my counters, and now that I have a dining room table, he gets on that too. So
Yeah,
like,
Taz does this too. Yeah.
Yep. I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And he will especially do it if I am like cutting or preparing some type of food on my counter. I can't walk away for half a minute because he will be there in a flash trying to eat whatever it is that's on there, and which is a big no-no because he has special food to help him with his urinary tract issues. But that's a whole other story.
Yep.
So anyway,
our other cat has urinary tract issues as well and is on special food. But what you just said reminded me of my very first cat, who's Cosmo, who of course I named after the Seinfeld character. And one time I was, and I was, when I first graduated from college learning, web design, web development, among other things, but it was the web stuff that I ended up doing for a living. I didn't have a lot of money. I was basically working freelance projects. And this one time I splurged and I found a deal on steak. And I got myself a nice big steak. And I cooked up this nice big steak. And I started eating it. And then my phone rings. And it's my mom. And I think my dad wasn't doing too well at the time. So anyway, I was talking to her, and at some point I ended up going into my bedroom, and back then, of course, you're talking with a big long phone cord. So I went into the bedroom and come out, and Cosmo ate my steak. I'm not kidding. He ate a 20-ounce steak.
Holy crap!
I know.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's something that Max would do. Although there's no way that he could fit 20 ounces in his tiny little tummy. He would try though. I have come back and I have had food partially gnawed on before, and I'm like, all kinds of.
Well, like I say, the only thing that was left from the steak was the bone. That was it.
Oh my God!
It might have been a T-bone. It might have been a T-bone steak or a porterhouse steak. It probably was because they have bones.
Yeah, they're
and that was the only thing that was left was the bone. So
those are our lovable little carnivores.
Yes, and to that we have to say,
what is this bizarre segue that's happening right now? Can we maybe stay on point?
All right.
One day we'll have a cat podcast.
One more that I'm gonna say for a yes is the exchange at the end with Burnham and Rilek, where there's finally we find out that Rilek had an informant on the other side, and it turned out to be Tarina that told her, and they figured out the whole Admiral Vance thing was just a smoke screen, and they brought on Burnham and Saru thinking that they could figure it out, and they did. But I liked that whole thing, and then at the end when Burnham said, "I need you to be more transparent," and so I thought that was good. There was kind of an acknowledgement over there. I think there's an understanding that there are going to be times when the president can't be 100% transparent, but I think going forward, she's going to try to kind of lessen her Cardassian side. Because every time she's kind of being shifty, I think Cardassian is showing. So anyway, and I also have a little more to say about that if no one else has said it. So, all right. So let's move on to our nose.
No, 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 no,
no!
Go ahead.
That was good. I still like that. All right. Will from SoCal says no to President Lara Brillick and Admiral Charles Vance using Michael for her Navarre citizenship.
Okay. I didn't mind it, but I think I know where you're coming from. James the Augmented Sailor says no would be Tilly should have allowed Sasha to try and pilot the shuttle instead of just crashing. What more could she have done besides what ultimately happened? Telling her to just sit down and brace does nothing. It's not like they have seatbelts. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, she could have at least helped, particularly when he got injured. But anyway.
I disagree, because what could she have done that he wasn't already doing? He wasn't dead before they crashed.
Yeah.
She would have just gotten in the way.
And then he says, still no direction for Gray. We added a character, but literally it's just to offset the loss of Tilly. And he's already been here in non-corporeal form anyway. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I feel like Disco would have had a spot for him already lined up, but no. I know that we're going to talk about this, so I'm going to just start it off and say here, because I don't know if anybody else has brought it up. Oh, yeah, okay. There are a couple other. Gray's purpose is to be seen. That's his purpose, to be seen. And if that's all it is, it's not enough. It's not enough. You have to give them a purpose besides being seen. It's like, yes, we see them, now what? That's what I was thinking. Anyway.
Okay. All righty. Wes from Minnesota says, no. Tilly leaving? No way. I love Mary Wiseman. It is sad to see her leave. She is one of my favorite characters from Discovery. Yup.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I hope she's not completely gone, though. And like I said,
she said she wasn't.
Yeah. No. What? WTH. Gray is now goth? Looked like one of those kids my kids grew up with, dressing goth, but listening to Hanson. Upside is we had just 60 seconds of the character, which again did nothing to contribute to the plot. Second week in a row, we didn't get anything from the more interesting bridge crew.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that too. And that's why I mentioned the other characters that, got shown, but they just got shown. They weren't even talking. They were just there, so. But yeah, I mean, in the past, they've been there pretty much every episode. So maybe they're getting more screen time. So maybe they have to be in less episodes. I don't know. I don't know how it works as far as getting paid. So
yeah, I don't know what their contracts are.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who knows? All right. Next, we have Brian from Colorado. No, I don't know the species of the cadet with tusks, and I kept waiting for someone to state it on screen. I don't think he was Tellarite. Also, the gray scenes once again didn't add to the story, and I'm annoyed he now has a mullet. But that's just a personal gripe. That's funny. Yeah,
He was Tellarite, actually. At least according to Memory Alpha, he was. I mean, the one thing I'm noticing is there seems to be a lot of diversity in how Tellarites look. They don't all look the same, which I guess, that
I felt bad for him that he was the only one who didn't get a hood.
yeah.
Maybe the majority of body heat doesn't escape from a Telluride's head like it does for humans.
One thing I noticed, did the Orion look different this time? Like maybe they didn't have all that prosthetic makeup?
Nope.
Looked the
Still
same?
had the weird mouth thing going on.
Okay.
I was like,
I thought it looked a little bit better, but
well, it didn't to me, but that's okay.
Mike from Cleveland, he had a comment about us going on about 20 minutes defining what a no is. So I don't know. And that came down as a no, kind of, but I guess we just put it in here. It probably more than anything, it had been so many months since Ruthie and I had podcasted together, and it's all part of our chemistry. So
All right, moving on. Kim from San Diego and the Rebinge It Deep Space Nine podcast. Her no is and Prodigy. Sorry. I'm going off book here. Her no's are, Tilly, seriously? You're taking her from me? This is not good. Can fans provide a list of characters who you could get rid of while keeping the one character that so many people list as their favorite? What are you doing? Yeah.
I think the whole thing is we are going to see more of Tilly when she comes back. That is my belief.
I hope.
Yeah. Mike from Arizona is our final listener. No, he says, I gotta say, the stop and let's have a kumbaya moment while dodging spider, lightning, and flesh melting creatures didn't do it for me. I lost the sense of urgency and danger when they did that. Mike, I didn't have this in my nose, but I was tempted until I looked on the document and saw that you already had it. So I agree.
Yep, I agree as well. I thought that was completely stupid, completely took me out of the moment. Let's do that before, let's have the big, huge argument before we leave the safety of the ship, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of dumb to put it right there.
It really was.
Yeah.
It's like, completely losing the sense of urgency. We're running and we're running and we're running because these creatures are chasing us. They're chasing us. They're chasing us. But yet we have enough time for a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Because suddenly the creatures are like, oh, wait, let's hang back a minute. They're having a moment.
Let's discover our shared emerald chain pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I don't know.
The moment,
the moment itself was nice. Yeah.
Yes. The moment itself was nice. It was just misplaced,
Totally misplaced.
Yeah. Should have been, I don't know. Like maybe they should have gone to a cave first, and got through that stuff in the cave. I don't know. To me, but I think they shouldn't have had the moment in the middle of those things. So yes, Mike, completely 100% agree with you. Next point, he says, you're telling me they couldn't have had somebody else come up with the idea of an independent committee to assess the needs of Federation member worlds? I would have preferred for the Quat Malat to have taken on that responsibility, especially with their principle of absolute candor. Mike, I thought of the exact same thing. In fact, when it was brought up, I thought that's who that Burnham was going to suggest, that basically she was going to put like her mother in that spot or something like that. And instead she puts herself in there.
Yep. Once again, Michael Burnham is the solution to everything.
Yes. Yes. And that is my big no with this episode. Yet again, somehow Michael Burnham is in the center of things. It's like, stop this. It just, all it does is give fuel to the whole, Mary Jane argument that people have had with her character since the beginning. I don't agree that she's a Mary Jane character because Mary Jane character doesn't get sent to prison for treason. But,
right.
because she's had enough bad things happen to her, but, it's just another thing. So hopefully this is one of those things that'll never get used, but, I don't think that they needed to have her in there, or maybe put Saru in there, spread it around a little bit. Next one, still waiting on them to figure out Grace's role on the ship. Yes, and yes.
Yep.
And now the Federation president is no longer an antagonist? That may have resolved a little too quickly for me. I hope that is not the end of the tension she brings. I don't think it will be, but I don't think she was ever a bad guy. I think they just kind of made it seem like she was,
Yeah, I don't either. I think
kind
she
of
was
like
always
a false positive kind of thing. All right, Ruthie, what do you have for no's this week? That's never a good sign.
I just kind of, I don't know. I don't know that I really necessarily, I mean, do they not, yes, these are the best that their worlds have to offer, but do they not do any kind of psychological evaluations or anything? I mean, they sure did when the Discovery showed up. So I don't understand why they're not doing that now, and why they wouldn't
That's a good point.
Put them through I just feel like there's such blatant hostility between and prejudices towards each other to even be allowed in Starfleet Academy. I mean, it just kind of blew my mind. I know other people thought these, the cadets scenes were great, and I didn't really. I didn't really even think that Tilly was that great in them. Just, I don't know.
I mean, maybe
Color me not impressed.
Maybe the issue was before they weren't even checking for that kind of thing. I mean, that might have been it, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I didn't like the whole springing the exercise thing on Adira. That seemed badly done. No one likes unpleasant surprises, and I think this qualifies as one, especially based on Adira's response. I don't know why Tilly would have done that. Yeah, you're actually going to be in a cadet role this time. Why would you not explain that beforehand?
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Maybe Tilly ordered Sasha not to help the pilot because the pilot usually gets killed. Or at least that's how it seems to work in TV fiction land. So I don't know. But yeah, I didn't really like any of the team building scenes. How did they get so thrown off track? I mean, is this another moon of this planet? They didn't really explain that very well. They just, a rogue gamma burst. What? I mean, sometimes I really like the Technobabble because honestly, without it doesn't really seem like Star Trek because they just...
Yeah.
They don't really tell us anything. They just go about their day we're all just going to be oh, okay. I feel honestly, Discovery has become such a dumbed down version of Star Trek. It really drives me crazy. For some reason, we're not smart enough to understand the technical talk. So they just I don't know. I really felt it this episode, I think, because of the whole, like, I mean, I don't know how far apart these moons are. I don't know how big this planet is that has all these moons. Is it like a Jupiter-sized planet or something, that has however many moons, 40-something moons?
Maybe.
And I mean, and that's fine, obviously. That's reality. That's in our own solar system, in our backyard. Great. But they didn't really say that they were. I mean, how did they know? How did she know just by raising the shields, the whatever shield things those were? How did she know exactly what planet they were on?
Well, I'm
Like,
thinking
she
that
just-
she did, looked at a brief on the planets and knew, that, or not planets, I guess
Moons.
and saw that, this moon was, class M and this moon was a class L, and, probably a bunch of them were none of the above. So by knowing that it was class L, she's like, she obviously was able to figure out which one it was. That's what I figure happened, but
I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. I sort of liked the negotiation scenes a little bit better, but not the end result. I mean, after 4 months and no one else could come up with this. I mean, she basically said that. It's like,
yeah,
I don't understand why no one else could come up with this very thing. I don't understand why, based on everyone leaving, why this wasn't something that they considered in the first place when they started asking, worlds and whatnot, nations, what have you, planets, not nations, planets, to rejoin the Federation, why they didn't say something like this in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we kind of got
and for that
I don't
matter,
know.
like, I guess they didn't have this kind of thing in place the last time, because otherwise a bunch of planets wouldn't have left,
Or something.
I forget how many they said were in the Federation at its high point, like
It's peak.
yeah, like 300.
know.
I forget.
I don't know either, but I just kind of feel like there are a lot of things that I feel like just haven't really been very well explained. And I'm just like, what? Anyway.
Do you got anything else?
No, I don't really want to go on and on.
Okay. Most of what I had written down, I already said. Like, I'll just reiterate: if the purpose of the gray character is to be seen, I guess I just don't understand why being seen is
Enough.
okay. They're seen, but now that they're seen, they're either going to be ignored or they're just going to be annoying. So, I think you need to be more than seen. You need to be appreciated and recognized. So you need to have a purpose. So these are all things that we hope for the character. So the purpose shouldn't just be seen. I already mentioned it in my rating, but the lieutenant dies and basically completely ignored. Like, did they even, go back and pick up
Retrieve his body?
Yeah.
They might have.
Yeah, they might have, but it just was.
Well, Kovich mentioned him at the very end.
Yeah, Kovich did, but when Tilly had that conversation with Burnham in her quarters, it was like, she's like, she mentions what happened, but nothing about, and she says typical day, but nothing about like this guy dying on her mission that she's basically leading. So it's like,
I don't know how typical that is.
Yeah. So I just thought that's so typical. We always forget the red shirts. The last thing that I guess, because I already said most of the other stuff. it was shoehorned in at the end. Burnham asking about Giovanni and getting the follow-up to what is going to happen with Giovanni. It seemed like it was placed there. It just felt very forced and not very fulfilling. So I thought that was not worth it to see.
Yep.
It was a follow-up to last week, which we also thought was also forced and didn't make a lot of sense. So it's like I don't get it. So it feels like they're building up to some story that's going to be later this season with Giovanni and Burnham's mom. So they're gonna be in this in the season later for something else, like because otherwise, why would they set this up? Why is it basically that the mom's with Giovanni and that it's just a whole thing to set up so that later on in the season the two of them will be together. That's my prediction. But it feels very forced right now. All right. Now it is time for our favorite little jingle segment.
Hello, this is Captain Tilly. What the hell? What the hell? Hold your horses.
More appropriate this week than any week. Will from SoCal says, please hold my horse. Can we get more time on the A and B storyline? Tilly and Michael Saru. The writers left a lot of meat on the bone. Second, what is Gray's purpose on the show? Indeed, Will, indeed. What is his purpose on the show?
That is a good question. I wish we knew.
I have heard not much said.
I'm not sure they know.
Yeah.
All right. James the Augmented Sailor says, hold your horses. What's with the L-class ice planets in the 32nd? I was waiting for some parasitic ice and literally almost thought I got it until the thingamadoos showed themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that as well, actually. It certainly did have, it was similar to it for sure. Western Minnesota says, hold your horses. Again, Gray Tall still has not much to do. I hope that picks up. So true.
Brian from Colorado, hold your horses. Why did the ice go up Adira's legs? Why do the monsters on the ice planet like technology? And how did the stranded Starfleet personnel know that? Well, I can't answer the first question, but I can answer the second question because they said that they liked feeding on electromagnetic something or other.
We have seen that before. We have seen a creature that fed on electrical current or something. There was the shuttle that Burnham was in when she ended up on Discovery. That's exactly what happened. So still makes me wonder if Lorca put those bugs in the system just to make it so that Burnham would end up there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the ice went up Adira's legs, though. I thought that was rather sudden and once again unexplained.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, I've seen that kind of thing. If it's really, really, really cold and it gets wet and everything freezes, I have seen that happen.
Right.
But this had more of the parasitic ice kind of feel to it.
Right. It's not like Adira fell through the water or anything.
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't even understand that whole thing. I thought suddenly there's this spreading ice something and I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. And I thought if Adira is really that stuck, then trying to pull him out like that would just yank Adira's arms right out of the sockets. If indeed Adira is that stuck.
Yeah.
So, but I don't understand why. I don't know. There were a lot of things I didn't understand. So,
yeah,
I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah. Kim from San Diego and the Prodigy podcast says, not good enough. Low on humor. And Tilly is leaving. She's half the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
I feel like they're taking away all my favorite characters.
Yeah.
First Giorgio, now Tilly.
Yeah. Then she says, Culber in a sweater? What was that? I did like Culber in this episode, though. Me complaining about him being a medical officer and not chief medical officer is still, out there, but he definitely is filling the ship's counselor role quite well, I think.
Agreed. And the sweater is obviously his counselor uniform. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, at least he's not showing cleavage.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I never understood why Troy was never in a regular Starfleet uniform. I never understood that. Oh my gosh. Until like the very, very end or something. I don't know. I was like, she's a Starfleet officer, but yet, yeah, I don't know. Anyway. So that's his counselor uniform. So there you go.
I guess it doesn't make much sense to, take sessions with the very dapper medical officer uniform, that white. That's one of my favorite ones, actually. That the white colored one.
Yeah,
I think that looks really good on him.
It does, but I question the use of white. But then I always question the use of white because it gets dirty so easily.
Yeah.
I'm like, make white your dress uniform, yes, but don't make it your everyday uniform, especially when it could get blood on it. What?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's why the Mirror Universe had the right idea, making it red.
Or black. Black hides blood the best. Anyway, whatever. I digress. All right. Next, we have LT from NC and the Lower Decks podcast, who says, the Gray storyline just feels like it was tacked on. I know they can do better, but it just seems like they added this stuff on for reasons. Yeah.
Yep.
Because reasons.
That's what it feels like.
The team of misfit cadets just felt very setup-ish to me. I liked the overall plot run with it, but it felt rather contrived rather than organic. Agreed. While I have never fully subscribed to the Burnham is the savior for all things at all times trope some naysayers of modern Trek have pushed, this last bit with the Navarre negotiations is making me see their point to a degree.
Yep.
Me too.
Me too.
Finally, I am there.
Yeah, this was a road. This was a road too far.
Yep, bridge too far.
Bridge too far.
Yep.
Using my metaphors.
Mm-hmm. Finally, I liked this week's episode as a whole, but the flow didn't seem as good as it did last week for me. Hopefully this won't continue as we go along. Yeah, well, I liked it okay.
All right, Ruthie, what do you have for Hold Your Horses?
Let's see here. What do I have? I think I have the same thing, the ice. Why did the ice climb up her legs? And why are the creatures still hunting them? And how are they still hunting them? And why do they pop up above the surface only to just dive back down? Except for when they're having their moment. And then they leave them alone. And they just hide under the ice. Suddenly they're lost for a minute. I don't know. I just, nope. Whole thing, I was like, man, that's about it.
Yep. Well, for me, there are times when the wisdom of Tal doesn't seem to be there for Adira. Like, it's like you would expect her. Like, I know she's a teenager. Oh, there, I did it again. I caught myself this time. There are times when I know they're a teenager, but it's still, you would think that they would have a bit of wisdom that because of the symbiote, right? But they're naive and they're much more of a teenager, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, by the way, it made me wonder about this. Okay, so if they're a teenager and what's his name is
Gray?
Also a teenager, yeah, Gray. They're living together. Isn't that like kind of wrong? Aren't
I
they
don't
too
even know
young
anymore.
for that?
I don't even know anymore.
Like 16, and if they're both 16, that's kind of young to be living together. So anyway, maybe they're more, then again, Wesley Crusher lived alone quite a bit. So so we see Dr. Kovich again, and first of all, that was one thing I noticed, that it's Dr. Kovich, which I didn't realize until this week. And that's, of course, because, well, he was mentioned as Dr. Kovich. Before, it was always Kovich. Anyway, so I'm wondering, with the access that he has, I'm wondering if he might be like a past president of the Federation or something, since we know he's not the president of the Federation. He's like past president, or I don't know, because he seems to have a line on practically everything. He's an expert on everything. Like, he's an expert on he's an expert on team building. He's an expert on just everything. So, but anyway, another thing I noticed is, so if Starfleet Academy just started, how come these cadets already have pips, or cadet pips, or like lines, but they have these lines, which I think one of them had a 4th year line and one on a 3rd year line. So where are they learning to become an officer? I figure that they must be learning to become an officer somewhere, because otherwise there wouldn't be any Starfleet. So I'm just wondering where that is.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's it for Hold Your Horses this week. So let's move to our feedback section and open hailing frequencies. We only have one voicemail this week, and it's from Jeff, X-Force 11, keeping the streak alive.
Hello, Star Trek fans. This is Jeff, X-Force 11, leaving my feedback about Discovery. All is possible. I like this episode. I think Tilly has been my favorite character on this series because I felt a lot of kinship with her. And I like that she is finding her footing. And I like the fact that she is going to be sharing what she's learned and her experiences with the cadets. And I think that in turn will give her more confidence in who she is. And I think it will be a fun way of growing her character and maybe getting to see her come back in a season or two more confident and strong. And so I like that. I know Mary is doing a play, and this is a way to have her not as involved for a little bit, but I will miss her. I like Burnham and Saru's idea of an oversight committee for the Federation in this new world so that there's insight and governance given and looking at things objectively. And I like that both Starfleet and Navarre are seeing the usefulness of both of those characters. And so I appreciated so much about this episode, and I'm excited to see where they go next. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force is out.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, X-Force 11, for your feedback yet again this week, keeping that streak alive. I do agree that she's going to develop some skills and confidence at Starfleet Academy, but I am hoping it's going to be, it's not going to be a season or two that we see her next. It's going to be a lot sooner than that. Like, hopefully it'll just be a few episodes, but we'll see. So nothing to say about Jeff.
I'm glad you're enjoying the show. That's what I have to say.
Boy. All right. So now it's into written feedback. Why don't you read James's?
All right. James, the Augmented Sailor, says, okay, Rillick's Bajoranness came out tonight. I've softened on her. It's not a yes, though, yet. I'm going to pull a Ruthie and give her a couple episodes before I give her my blessing. This is our big expository episode of the season, I think, guys. I'm not giving a rating on it due to it's a trap is pivotal episode. I'm not sure what he's trying to say there.
I don't know, but he's feeding me.
It's a trap!
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's supposed to be a pivotal episode. Anyway, I feel like if the season plays out great, then this episode is a 10. If the season duds, then so does this ep. My initial reaction is that it's going to be stronger with rewatches due to performances. Can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts.
Well, I think you're probably right, because I think that there were some good performances in this episode. Mm-hmm. And
I think for the most part, the performances are always good. It's just other things that I don't like.
Yeah. I heard another podcast say it, and I'll give them credit. The Vulcan Hello, they said it very well, that they're good at writing character stuff, but not so good at writing plot.
Mm-hmm.
And
so true.
And I can say the same damn thing on The Walking Dead. It's the same exact thing, where, they write good character moments and not so good plot. And this is especially true for Fear the Walking Dead. Yeah. All right. Next is Mike from Cleveland. And he says, long time no post, but I try to avoid being negative about voluntary activities like what TV shows I choose to follow. And the majority of my comments on season 3 would have been in violation of my policy.
I am right there with you, bro. I feel the exact same way. Unfortunately, I could not withhold.
Yeah. This episode gave me hope that Discovery will get back on track again. Season 1, in my opinion, was the best first season of any Star Trek franchise ever. I'm going to stop you right there. As much as people will, say bad things about season 1, I agree with you. I think it was the best Star Trek season 1 of any show. The closest that I could say probably would be Lower Decks at this point. Season 2, almost as good as season 6 of Deep Space Nine. In my humble opinion, the absolutely best season of any Star Trek ever. And again, I agree with you on that one. Hopefully from this point on, Discovery will continue to improve. Regardless, I always enjoy the podcast. Hashtag Ruthie was right.
Thanks, Mike.
Ruthie is right.
Next, we have Jim from Orange. I hope Tilly doesn't disappear for too long. The Book and Culber moments were great. The political intrigue and the away mission were awesome and so pure Trek. After a ho-hum start to this season, the last two episodes have brought a smile back to my Star Trek soul. I agree. I really like the Culber and Book moments.
Last is Kim from San Diego and the Star Trek Prodigy podcast on Rebinge It, a Talk Through Media podcast, or on the Talk Through Media network. And also on this feed, we're saying. And they'll be back in January. And I don't know, we haven't heard yet if I'm right or not, whether or not Discovery will go back on a hiatus or not. But if not, then you'll be getting 2 shows on this feed. Anyway, she says, apart from the team building exercise, I really didn't think much of this episode. Tilly and the cadets are the only good part. And yes, I do give tough scores, but even James shrugged at this episode. It pains me to not be enjoying this season yet because I love this show so much. I just don't think we've found our footing yet this season. I'm really struggling to connect to these stories. I like the little missions we go on, but they aren't the main story. I mean, we had 2 A stories plus a B story in this episode, and that's too much. Make the Star Trek story the important one. A deeper focus was needed so we could see her struggle and her connection to the cadets. The Michael Saru story was weird and was somehow resolved by a committee run by Michael, who is not a real Vulcan. Anticlimactic. We've lost our Trek mojo.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
I don't know. I just didn't like the whole, like, again, tendency of let's put everything, on my shoulders. It's like that thing that Rillick even, criticized her for, that everything has to be on her. And yet this time she let her do it, right? Like Rillick let her put everything on Burnham. So I don't know. Maybe it's an acknowledgement that yes, Burnham can handle it. I don't know, but I didn't like them going to that again because it's a trope that they use too much on this show. And yes, we get it. She's the lead. We get it. This isn't an ensemble per se. It's more of a lead, and then an ensemble with a lead atop of it, I guess you could say. So, but anyway, that's it for our feedback this week. Ruthie, what do you have as far as our notes?
I am appreciating the way that they're showing grief. I think it's not always a straight line. So, Booker goes forward and then backwards, which is completely natural. I didn't understand why when she asked for a recess, but then they were preparing to leave orbit. Like, what? That's not how you negotiate. You come back from a recess, not I'm going to take my toys and go home. And
maybe that was just a bluff. I don't know.
It didn't make any sense, though. I don't know. That whole, honestly, the whole negotiation thing, I was like, there were aspects of it that I enjoyed, but then on the other hand, I was like, what? So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
On the Ready Room, there was like a montage of Tilly scenes, and there was one thing I noticed, and I there was at one point in a rewatch that I thought I noticed this, but I wasn't sure. But after I saw it in the rewatch, I confirmed it has to be the case. Between seasons 1 and 2, Mary Wiseman must have had a mole removed.
Mm-hmm.
It's on her forehead, or it was on her forehead, because if you look at her pictures from season 1, like you look at her picture of when, say, she was like in the first episode when she was like just meeting Burnham the first time, or when she's Captain Killy, she's got a mole, right? And then after that, she doesn't. So, and she has other moles, but it's funny that she got that one mole removed. And since we're talking the Ready Room, and it was asked about, is Tilly, off the show? And it was said, no, Tilly's not going anywhere. If this could be to set up a new Starfleet Academy show with Tilly Mary Wiseman as the star, could that be what they're trying to set up here? Maybe that's why she's off to Starfleet Academy.
I don't know.
And I wonder if maybe could it possibly be a Star Trek comedy, like an actual like live action comedy as opposed to a cartoon comedy. I won't do it again.
I don't know.
That was my thought, though. Like, it's either that or she's going to, like, they did this because of her commitment to the play, and she's going to be back. I mean, those are the two options that I see. Maybe we'll find out why she's gone, but if it's got something to do with the story, we'll find out. And if it's got something to do, like if in the next few weeks, if they announce another Star Trek show starring Mary Wiseman, we'll know exactly why. So.
I really hope not, honestly. I feel like that's going to be saturation.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get Brave New Worlds, and they say that they're still planning on doing the
Strange New Worlds.
Brave New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. Whatever, the one with Captain Pike. That's what it is. Whatever it is, it's the one with Captain Pike. Anyway.
Yep.
That one. And they're going to do the Black Badge Division.
Well, supposedly.
Star Trek. They say that they're still going to do it. So, I'm just wondering, like, eventually we're going to reach a saturation point.
Yeah.
And I don't really want that. So it's like, I don't know if this happened where you are, but where I am, we had an explosion of Krispy Kreme restaurants, and they saturated the market, and then suddenly they all went away. They all died. Huh. So it's kind of like, and I don't think there is a single Krispy Kreme restaurant in Norman or even OKC Metro anywhere. So,
well, I don't know about, I don't think they had that kind of expansion, but the only thing I can equate it to would be Tim Hortons. And when, many years ago, there was an expansion of Tim Hortons, and suddenly Tim Hortons was everywhere in Canada. And and the only thing that happened to that is there just became more. After there were more Tim Hortons, there were more. They've grown. There's been no end to their growing. At least there wasn't when I left. So they see no end in sight. Anyway, all right. So we'll move on to spot the references, and I really don't have much. I didn't have much time to look up references, but it was only a few things that I could comment on. And the first thing was Rigelian rutabagus. And that's worth mentioning because the Rigel system has been there since the beginning of Star Trek. The Rigel system has at least 4 completely different and separate groups of humanoids on it. Actually, there's 5. There are the Rigelians, which we've seen, and they have kind of like this diamond shape on their face. And then there's separately the Rigelians, which are spelled differently, and I don't know if it's pronounced differently, but they are both from the planet Rigel 5, and the Rigelians with 2 L's are like turtles, and anyway, they're like turtle humanoids, so maybe they're like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something. I don't know. There are the Kalar of Rigel 7, and we see the Kalar of Rigel 7 that we see in a flashback. Pike fights the Kalar in the cage. And then there's also the Hill people of Rigel 4. I couldn't really find out much about them. There are also human colonies in the Rigel system, at least by the mid-23rd century. So I would assume that they're still there. So that's quite a bit of considered maybe the most heavily populated system in the known universe. So looking at the cadets, we had Val Sasha is a human from Titan, and Titan was notable because Titan was mentioned as having human colony in season 3, episode 3, People of Earth. They're the ones that got disconnected, or the communication went out from between them and the Earth colonies, or not Earth colony, but planet Earth. So they didn't realize that they were, humans attacking them. Anyway, Haral is an Orion, not only of the Emerald Chain, but beckons to, Ensign Tendi on lower decks. So that's another example of an Orion in Star Trek, in Starfleet. And of course the other guy, and I didn't write his name down, but he's a Tellarite. So, and as we were talking, there's Tellarites seem to have different appearances.
Gorev, I think.
Gorev.
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I wrote down. I don't know if there was anything else. Of course, we see Navarre, but that's an obvious thing. And there's we see Saurians. One of the groups in the delegation is a Saurian, much like Linus. And we see evidence of the different sides of Navarre, the Romulan, the Vulcan, and the Romulo-Vulcan in the group that she's the delegation that she's with at Tarina's with. Anyway, that's all that I've written down and can think of. So with that, let's move on to shipwide announcements. And speaking of Mary Wiseman and the Ready Room, she was the main feature on the Ready Room, interviewing her. And the feature, what the heck was the feature this week? I'm trying to remember what it was. Was it props? Or was that last week?
It was Tilly. It was all about Tilly.
Okay. Then it was all about Tilly. Yes, the montage.
Mm-hmm.
Montage! How can I forget about the montage? I even mentioned it. Yeah, and of course they had a clip for next week, and
yeah, she definitely had a mole from her forehead removed.
News this week, and after a 1 week hiatus, thanks to Wes Huntington for collecting these for us. On the most recent episode of Deadline Hollywood's Hero Nation podcast, Star Trek head honcho Alex Kurtzman was joined with Sonequa Martin Green, and they talked about what may be an inevitable crossover event between all of his Trek shows. He also stated that the Section 31 series, while it has been put on the back burner a little due to the pandemic and quite possibly Michelle Yeoh's very busy schedule, is still very much alive despite fan theories that it has been canceled altogether and fans who want it to never see the light of day. I don't think Bo Young Kim and Erica Lapolte are in the credits this season. So maybe that means that they're busily working on that show. So one can hope. You may recall from the powers that be, the same people who gave Kurtzman his extended contract, that the Section 31 series may appear on Paramount Plus once one of the current shows in production end. So if Picard goes 3 seasons, like it was projected to go, and they're shooting season 3, that may mean that it's the next show to go. So, Nichelle Nichols had a farewell event at LA Comic-Con. This was her final convention appearance. She had a send-off for the ages. And I'm not sure if that's a commentary from Wes or... Anyway, Walter Koenig was supposed to be there, but he had a local hospital. Oh, but he was in a local hospital for a minor infection. Former NASA astronaut Dr. Mae Jemison and the organization as a whole gave her the Exceptional Public Achievement Medal. Nichols is best known to the organization for recruiting women and people of color to NASA after Star Trek went off the air in 1969. In fact, there's a documentary that's available to watch on Paramount Plus about this. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I've been meaning to. William Shatner's trip to space in October is the subject of an hour-long documentary that will premiere on Amazon Prime Video in certain markets, such as the US and Canada, on December 15th. And it's worth saying, one of the people that was on that flight died recently in a plane crash. So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I read about it. I don't have his name handy, but he was, I think, 49, whoever he was. Yeah. And Wes says he missed this last week. But LeVar Burton was speaking to Rolling Stone magazine. He says that it is plausible for his return to Trek in Star Trek Picard, and looked back on Geordi's romantic endeavors on TNG, which he called insulting. I would agree as well. It did seem to be kind of like, put the nerd can't get the girl kind of thing. I don't know. Warp drive pioneer and former NASA warp drive specialist. I didn't know there was such a thing. Dr. Harold G. Sonny White has reported the successful manifestation of an actual real-world warp bubble. Interesting.
Yeah.
For one, like I said, I never knew that there was an actual warp drive specialist at NASA.
I didn't either until I read that article. I was like, whoa.
And
apparently it was really small warp bubble.
Yeah.
I read the article. It's a very, very small warp bubble, but still a warp bubble.
And what could you do with the small warp bubble? Can you throw like a wicked curveball or something?
Spin very small things through space.
More NASA news. The astronaut class of 2021 includes 10 people. They are part of the Artemis generation, which is NASA's ambitious plan to return to the moon first time since the 1970s. The first launch is set for sometime in 2025 and will include a woman and a person of color to walk on the moon's surface. I have to say this is long time overdue, you know?
Yeah.
The very first like NASA thing that I remember, I can actually remember as a child, was the final Apollo launch. I don't remember the ones before it, but I remember the last one. And you know, it's funny that they just never went back. You know, just I don't know. I think that they should have kept going, but
yeah, it's quite puzzling.
Viacom CBS CEO Bob Bakish this week during the UBS Global TMT virtual conference explained why they bought back the rights for Discovery from Netflix just prior to the 4th season premiere. He envisions Star Trek as a core global franchise for Viacom CBS, hence why they bought the rights back from Netflix overseas. He also announced that South Korea will also get Paramount Plus in 2022. No date yet. I guess that's the first that they've announced that South Korea would get it. I don't know, but if you read that, and I haven't had a chance to actually read the article this comes from, but if you read that, it makes it sound like it was Netflix that was actually trying to hold on to the rights, and you know, it went down to the wire, not because like due to Netflix not offering a good enough price, but kind of like Viacom CBS just saying no, it's not for sale, or no, we don't want you to have it, or throwing up a price that was so large that, you know, they couldn't get it, or maybe trying to get like non-exclusive rights. I don't know, but it makes it seem like it wasn't a question of like what some people thought, that Netflix didn't want to pay for it anymore. I don't think that was the case. I never thought that was the case, actually, but this kind of cements it for me. And I noticed this as well. There's a new feature on Paramount Plus. They've launched more live channels on its service, which is very similar to Pluto TV, which is also owned by Viacom CBS. We talked about Pluto TV in the last couple of weeks, because some countries in Europe can watch Discovery on Pluto TV right now, but they basically put the features that are in Pluto TV in Paramount Plus now. So like there's all these like extra channels, including a Star Trek channel. There's like a whole channel that you can watch Star Trek on, and it just plays them, you know, back to back to back. Like when I was first looking at it, it was just like playing a whole bunch of like Enterprise episodes. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And all sorts of other, you know, Paramount content, and CBS content. There's 8 more live channels. Well, okay. So before this was only CBS Network, ET Live, the CBS Sports Network, and your local CBS station if you paid for it. Because not everybody had it on, depending on what level that you paid for it. Like at the cheap level, you didn't get your local station. So now there's 8 more live channels One of them, as I mentioned, is Star Trek channel. There's a SpongeBob channel. But there are animation channels. There's a crime and justice channel, all day drama channel, history and undiscovered channel, reality TV channel, a survivor channel, the challenge channel, which I don't really know anything about that. So there's a reality TV Shores channel, Black Voices channel, 24/7 Laughs channel, Adult Animation channel. It was like 4 soccer channels. So anyway, quite a few.
All right then.
An animation favorites, TV classics, nostalgic hits, and again, they're playing Star Trek Enterprise on the Star Trek channel. So no, there's no sci-fi TV channel. I'm wrong. So
Incorrect.
but I was right about everything else. A Dramatic Lab, a new fully remote independent game developer comprised of veterans from Telltale Games. If you don't know Telltale Games, they're the ones that wrote the famous The Walking Dead game it's like role-playing game. Anyway, in collaboration with Viacom CBS Consumer Products, today revealed Star Trek Resurgence, a new third-person choice-driven adventure game set within the iconic sci-fi universe. Star Trek Resurgence is scheduled for worldwide release in spring 2022 for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and exclusively on the Epic's Games Store for PCs. So pretty much just about everywhere. Well, not on mobile devices, but I would imagine, like, I know most of the Telltale games were on like iOS and Android, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming, but not announced here. Anyway, Star Trek Resurgence is an interactive video game that tells an original story set shortly after the events of Star Trek The Next Generation. Stationed aboard the USS Resolute, players will assume the role of 2 principal characters, First Officer Jara Rydek and engineering crew person Carter Diaz, as they unravel a sinister mystery involving 2 alien civilizations on the brink of war. Throughout the game, players will immerse themselves in the Star Trek universe, interacting with new and returning characters through a variety of dialogue and action gameplay to determine the course of the story. I don't know if you ever played those kind of games before, like where you kind of choose your...
No.
Yeah. There was many years ago, I had one like this that was actually like live, and it was called Star Trek Borg, and actually had John Delancey in it. And it was interesting, and it was basically a choose your thing, but it didn't have that many choices because it was all video based, so wasn't many layers to the game. But now they can do all sorts of stuff. Anyway, and I played the Walking Dead game, so I'm familiar with that kind of play. Last thing, Parrot Analytics. Discovery slipped 2 spots this week from number 8 to number 10. Slightly down with 26.2 times the average show, the demand of an average show, down from last week's 26.9. Number 1 in the digital originals is The Wheel of Time with 43.0. Just ahead of Arcane, which was the number 1 last week at 42.8. So it's funny. Both of them went down from last week, but they both went up. And number 3.
Both of who? Both of what or who?
The Wheel of Time and Arcane, their numbers, like the band, like their times number, both of them went down, but Wheel of Time actually pulled ahead of Arcane. So, and number 3 was Hawkeye. And Hawkeye went up like 7 spots from number 10 to number 3 this week. So I haven't.
I need to watch that.
I don't have
on my TV.
I don't have Disney Plus. So, all right, that is it for this episode. So, Ruthie, give my voice a rest and tell people how to contact us and send feedback and let them know about our feedback deadlines going forward for Christmas time.
All righty. For future reference, the deadline for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 5 is going to be... Why is it going to be Saturday?
I thought I fixed that.
Okay. For the deadline for Star Trek Discovery Season 4... oh my gosh. The deadline for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 5 is Friday, December 17th, 2021 at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Subject to change as always.
Incorrect.
Oh my gosh. What a mess. That was a mouthful and hard to get through for some reason. Oops, my cat just fell off my lap. Oh my gosh. He's very small, so sometimes if I move around a little bit, he just will slip right out. Anyway, to submit your theories and feedback, go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. You can call us at 216-232-6146 and leave a voicemail. You can send us an email at Star Trek Discovery at talkthroughmedia.com. Or you can post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. So we mentioned this earlier a little bit. We're going to be moving our recording schedule around during the holidays. So the deadline for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 6 will be Thursday, December 23rd, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, maybe 8 Eastern, 7 Central. On Thursday, December 23rd, which is the same day that the show
so
airs.
You won't have much time.
So, no. In fact, maybe not any time at all, depending on your personal schedule. And we are sorry for that. But as we said previously, unfortunately, the 24th is Christmas Eve and the 25th is Christmas, as you all well know, which are Friday and Saturday this year. Normally we record on Friday night unless other things are happening. We record Saturday, but both of those days are sort of taken for the holidays this year. However, the deadline for Season 4, Episode 7 will be Saturday, January 1st, later in the day. I want to say probably around... I don't know. We'll probably be recording later in the day on that Saturday because it is New Year's Day after all. We may or may not be staying up late the night before. I don't know. It depends. But in any case, you'll have a little bit of extra time to send in your feedback for for Episode 7. So if you don't get your feedback in for Episode 6 by the deadline, by that December 23rd, go ahead and send it to us anyway, and we will cover it when we record for Episode 7.
What'll probably happen is Episode 6 is will probably be a shorter episode, maybe. We might hope.
Yeah.
And then
probably.
But Episode 7 will be a long one because we'll basically have feedback for 2 episodes. But, we'll see. That may turn out to be false and everyone will get their feedback in early. So we'll see.
Yeah. Who knows? We shall see indeed. If you would like to support the podcast, you can like our page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. While you're there, you can write a review of our Facebook page. You can review Facebook page.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't know that. Awesome. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Star Trek TTM, at Star Trek TTM is what it is. You can share us on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter, especially when we post that the new episode is out. You can subscribe to the Talk Through Media YouTube channel, which is where you'll find our newest episodes first. You can also subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And while you're there, also give us a rating or review, or both. Also, you can go to podchaser.com where you can rate and review the podcast, or you can even do individual episodes.
And it's worth saying that if you're trying to find that, there are links to the podcast on the blog post to Podchaser. If you look for it, there's a link there.
All right. Finally, the best way to help us keep the lights on here is to support us via Patreon. And we would like to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters right now. James Robbins, Kim Vogley, Brian Shiro, Christoph Leckleitner, Michael Carrier, Stephen Chambers, Jeff Gentry, Robert Kaiser, Clint McCullum, Mike. Is that Mike from Cleveland?
Yes.
Mike from Cleveland, Trey, Lawrence Todd, Kyle McAdams, The Quail, and Jeff Bayako.
All of the podcasts from Talk Through Media can be found on the Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed, which in addition to this podcast, the Star Trek Picard cast, the Star Trek Lower Decks cast, the Star Trek Prodigy cast, also has Rebinged DS9 and The Walking Dead Talk Through. I think that's all of them. And Kyle, LT, and myself are actually, at the time that we're recording this, we're an episode behind on Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead World Beyond. The next episode will be coming out. We'll be covering season 7, episode 7. And next week, we will be recording the episode for the mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. And the season finale the series finale of World Beyond. So that we haven't recorded yet, so we'll be recording it next week, hopefully. Our next episode of the Star Trek Discovery podcast will be covering season 4, episode 5, titled We Don't Know. They haven't released it yet.
We don't know yet. They haven't released the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incorrect.
We don't know who's written it or who's directed it yet, so we don't know much about it other than the clip, which looked like Discovery trying to evacuate or help evacuate a planet, and it looked like there was like everyone except for some prisoners, and the people didn't care.
So everybody knows criminals aren't important.
Yes. And of course, Burnham was like, criminals are important. I used to be one. No, she didn't say that, but anyway.
She didn't say that, but she did disapprove.
Yes.
She was very disapproving.
Yes.
As well she should be as a Starfleet officer.
And a former mutineer.
Federation. Yep.
I can't help. I have to say that.
Yeah, they brought it up for the first time in a while this episode.
Yeah, so. They did. They did. So, until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.